Okay, people, it's Thursday again. We say welcome to the conversation. Outspoken Opinionated. Of course, I am your host, Edwin Maya. Today's conversation look like it's going to be real crazy. We're crazy in a good way. Let me not say crazy because sometimes when you say crazy, y'all be acting up. So for my people who are not following me, I am told that I need to say this all the time. I'm really getting tired of doing this. Now, let's start first. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're asking you to go follow the conversation Outspoken Opinionated. Go to Facebook, the conversation Outspoken Opinionated. Of course, we're on Instagram, the conversation with double N. And then basically, we are here. We have started the season. This is season 3. We are in February. It's Black History Month. So you see, I'm rocking this is what they call, I think, they be having that name, Ankara, whatever they call this. But anyway, February is also a love month. And so everything we're doing, we're going to be talking about love. And so, of course, you're having these conversations with the team, and they were like, well, we need to have a conversation. I'm like, what conversation? They're like, oh, we need to talk about divorce. I'm like, you're trying to put my business out there on Front Street. And they're like, yeah, it's not what the conversation is all about. Your viewers, there are people who do want to know about you. They want to know more about you. They want to know everything. So actually, today is going to be totally different. We are going to have a really, really great conversation. I have 4 people who are supposed to be joining us, and we're just going to have a conversation on love and divorce. And the way we said it is, I want to give you guys context. You get married, love is great, you have the kids. If you do have the kids, they tell you it's going to be happily ever after. Nobody gets married or get divorced. And so we're going to just have a conversation. I have 3 people who have been down the journey. They've been through the process. And it's funny because these 3 people knew me when I was super single. Then I got real married. And then I got real divorced. All these people here, so they've seen my progression and my my progression from one state of my life to the other. So the first person I'm going to bring into the studio, someone who's actually been here before. She's amazing, Precious Taylor. So I want to say, Precious, welcome back to the conversation. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much.
It's really great to have you, and we're going to have a good conversation. I'm also going to bring in somebody, Carmina Grant. So Carmina Grant, we say welcome. It's the first time on the show. We're going to give you the ground rules. Say whatever you want to say.
Okay.
Don't have a drink. We do have drinks up on here.
Well, I didn't even know I had to get a drink. Oh, man.
Well, how you going to come and have a drink? You need water. You need water. Stuff.
Okay, yeah, give me 2 seconds. I need at least a bottle of water. So hold on. I'll be back.
Okay, but Precious, guys,
I need one of those mugs though.
So that's the plan. The mugs, the merch is going to come up soon. We are working on it right now. I got somebody who was supposed to help me on my website, but we'll talk about that on another day. Who's supposed to be joining the conversation as well. But the merch is coming, so we do have a mug. We have shirts. We have some other stuff that we're putting together. But once they come, of course, people who've been on the show multiple times get free mugs. So let's see if everybody else want to join. But guys who are watching, Precious is in IT. She has an amazing business that helps parents with the kids how to work with basically building infrastructure to protect your kids on the internet. Moms, right? So that's really, really great. And so Carmina, who just left us, is also going to come out. But Carmina is in clinical rehab. She also runs her own business as well. It's called Crew Crown. And Crew Crown, I believe it's a hair product for, just going to have us get long hairs because Carmina, cut that hair, don't grow back, cut that hair, don't grow back. So I think, but without further ado, I'm going to bring in Mr. Akwe. Emmett, welcome to the show. Did you bring some? We can't hear you, so I think you're mute.
I know, video etiquette. I want me too.
Okay, that's why the conversation is going to be real, real crazy. Emmett talking about video etiquette. Okay, Carmina is back. I was telling the people about Crew Crown. I know Crew Crown is amazing. And
yes.
I'll show you. Okay. Okay, so Emmett also is in IT. Emmett is an IT professional. He also runs his own business. So I think these are all entrepreneurs here. Get in the bag, because everybody get in the bag. I know Precious get in the real bag. I know. I can just see it. She's drinking her tea. She said, I'm not going to get involved in this. But guys, I want to say thank you for joining me today. This is a very, This is a topic that I don't think I was ready for, but my team really pushed me to have this conversation. I didn't know it was really stressed about it until today. I couldn't really work. I couldn't think because I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to relive this process. And so I brought you guys on board because we've all been through something. It's common among all of us. And so I just want us to have a conversation. I first want to start, with love. I'll put this way. I don't think love is dead. I think we find our part. We find the people. We fall in love. We get married. For those who have kids, and then life happens. And when life happens, there are things that we go through that I feel was like people don't really understand what we're going through in that process. And so I want to put myself out there, and then we can start the conversation. And of course, I got married. It was happily ever after, and then I had my son. When I had my son, stuff started to happen. It took a little awkward thing for me. Stuff started to happen. Different things happen. Boom, 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 boom. I get a divorce. The hardest part for me in my divorce was for me to move out of my house. Because in the state of Maryland, you have to be separated for a year. And so I just want to also have this conversation on your headspace when you started the process. Where were you in your headspace? Because mentally, I was messed up. And Emmett, if you want to go, you can go.
Why I felt like you're going to call my name first? Because when you say you're going to start with, I'm like, what you say, Emmett?
And they are just
smiling. I try to have my face and everything else. When you say, got to call my name, man.
What you serious? I didn't like that.
Well, I mean, I would say this. I'm a different breed when it comes to the divorce situation. I didn't experience what a lot of folks experience because for me, I tried to make it work. And so I took steps in terms of taking my ex-wife to counseling and, finding counseling for us and all of those things. So when the decision was made, I had already checked out. It was what it was. So there was no love lost, no headache. It was just a matter of navigating the process to ensure that, I don't get taken advantage of.
Okay. Anybody else can jump in? Their headspace, general headspace, where you were, where you're working, you got like how do you navigate that?
So I'll go, Carmina. Like Emmett said, I think it's different for everybody, right? And mine it's been decades now. So, but during the time, it was extremely difficult. It was difficult because it takes two to make a marriage work, right?
Right.
And both people need to work at it for it to be successful. It's not just one person. And when you get to that place where, you're either separated or you're going through a divorce, nobody in their right mind wants it. Nobody wakes up and say, I want to get a divorce overnight. It's a process. Things happen and you eventually get to that point. But I mean, for me personally, I felt like a failure. I felt like I had, I was working at this thing. I was happy at one point. I didn't want to break up my family. So during that particular time, I felt as a failure. I felt despite everything I tried to do to make it work, to save it, it just wasn't happening. And so I had to get past that in my mind. I had to get past the fact that I was not a failure, that bad things happen to good people. And that sometimes no matter how hard you work to save something, it's not always possible. But that's a process. For some people it's overnight. For others, it takes a while for you to get there mentally.
Okay. Well, for me, it was different. It was, when you say life come at you at once and you're just so confused, you don't know what emotion to bring out. That was me. So it hit me in the sense that I didn't know it was coming. So I was I was fighting for my life, and then it happened. So I was literally in the hospital fighting for my life. And then my ex says, I'll be back, and never came back.
Oh.
And so I was fighting for my life, fighting for like what is going on. So I didn't have time really to process. I needed to process. I didn't have time to process. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know where my head was. I can't tell you. It was, I was mad. I can't tell you I was sad. I can't tell you like I was angry. I wanted to kill somebody. I can't tell you nothing because I didn't know where my head was. And I needed people to tell me what was happening because it seemed like I was in a dream. So I can't really answer that question.
It's amazing how we have three completely different
stories.
Wow.
And I think, and that's why I think this conversation is so important, because I think someone told me when I was going through my process, someone told me that first of all, I need to let you know that no divorce is the same. Just how no marriage is one size fit all, no divorce is the same. So when you are going through the process, you might find people who might give you pointers. But this process that you are going through is unique for you.
Yeah.
So it's unique to you. It's happening to you, your feelings and stuff. But Precious, you brought something out where you said, two people need to be, two people need to be in one accord in order for it to work. But let's talk about the shame. Because I think a lot of times we don't focus on the shame. We all act really tough. We think we're so strong, and you don't want people to see your other side. And for some of us who know how to play it very well, people were freaking out and looking at me, and they're like, "Is something going on with him? He probably going to kill somebody." I'm like, "No, I'm fine." But behind closed doors, I was breaking down every 30 minutes, literally. So can we talk about the shame? And before we talk about the shame, I'm going to bring another person who's supposed to be a part of this conversation, but this person is not divorced. So let me put the disclaimer out there to people. He's not divorced. He's happily married, been married for 15 years. But we needed a balance for someone who maybe there are some things we'll talk about that he has experienced certain things and he was able to go through it and how he was able to go through it. And then we're talking about our shame and our failures. When people like this come around, we're like, okay, now they're going to tell me how I'm a failure in life. I didn't make it because he made it. And so now, stuff like that. So, but Ellington Brooks, you're welcome. You're very welcome.
Hi, family. All my sisters, brother.
You got your brothers here as well.
What's up, Chief?
So what we're going to do for you, you're not going to interrupt us, and you're not going to let us tell our stories. And then if you have something to say about our stories, you can say something. But you're going to let us talk about our stories.
Yes, sir.
But this is what I was saying just before you came in, Ellington. I was talking about the shame. And I like to put myself out there. I was ashamed. I felt I was ashamed. I felt that was a disappointment. When I walk into the room, I can see that people are watching me. Whether they were watching me or not, I just felt people are looking at me. And then I will put it this way. My shame and my disappointment was in me. But it was because my process was very public. Everybody around me knew my process from beginning to end. And so I don't know, can we just talk about that? The shame, the disappointment, how you felt about yourself, even though sometimes, it was it was not me, but at the end of the day, you still walk into a room, and how do you feel? And well, anybody can just jump into it.
I wouldn't say I was, again, my situation was pretty unique. It wasn't strange, but it was different. So I wouldn't say I was more so disappointed in myself than more ashamed. And I didn't want pity. So I was more so focused on that than shame or embarrassment. Because like I said, I feel it took me probably, I don't know. It's been way over well, not way over, but it's been over a decade. So it took me probably like 5 years or so to settle in and said, this really happened because of what I was going through. Again, I was going through an illness and I needed to get over that. So I need to get over fighting for my life, make sure I'm alive before I think about somebody else. So before I even think about my emotions, my inner feelings, I had to think about physical. So I had all of these things going on that I wasn't really embarrassed, but I was more so disappointed. Yeah.
So for me personally, and it's not easy to talk about this, even though it happened almost a decade ago. But personally, and I'm sharing this only because I'm hoping that somebody else can really benefit from this.
Right.
Because they're not things that people talk about openly, especially as Christians, right? Everybody, we don't really do a good job of sharing some of the difficult times. We do a good job of sharing the testimonies, but when it comes to the struggles, we tend to hide it behind a smile, right?
Absolutely.
For me personally, it was difficult because in the inner circle or the little outer circle, working in ministry, some things were public, even though they may or may not be true, right? So there are times that you enter a room and you get the stares, or maybe it's in your head. I mean, for me, sometimes I think it was in my head. I think sometimes I was thinking, what are they thinking? What are they saying? But again, it goes back to, and I wouldn't say it was shame. I think it was just failure. I just felt like I could not make something work. And so I failed at marriage, and I'm a high achiever. I'm driven. And so it was difficult for me to have something not in my control to make work. Right. And so those are inner issues that I had to deal with, to say some things are not in your control. But when they're not in your control, how do you bounce back from this? Do you get up in the morning and say, I need to continue, I need to push through? That was a struggle for me. It was a huge struggle for me, but I got to that point. I got to where, my family was there for me. My family was really there for me during that time. My sister, my mom, and sometimes the people who you think should be there for you are not there for you. And sometimes the people who think that they're there for you are not doing the things that you really need them to do that's beneficial to you. And so I had to navigate that. I had to navigate, it's okay if so-and-so doesn't call me to check on me. Maybe they don't know what to say, but I had to get to that point eventually, which was a process for me.
So Emmett, I think I didn't really tell you, but Emmett has been divorced. Emmett is remarried. And so, that's why I think this conversation really different. So he find love again, and he decided to get married. So Emmett, the first time.
Amen.
Yeah.
You see, I'm a different kind of person, right? In a sense that in terms of shame and what have you, that was never my issue because I operate in the simple sense that you're not paying my bills. You are not the one in this situation. I know what I've done to make sure that I can rescue the situation. And the funny thing is that before I got married, there was some age differences in between my ex and myself. And I said to myself, how are you going to handle this down the road, 10, 15, 20 years down the road? And I kind of resigned myself to, okay, I will do that. But the other thing was, I asked myself, this was me dealing with myself prior to getting married. And when I made a decision, I said to myself, okay, you are making this decision based on what you see now and what you are shown. However, if things goes left, don't beat yourself up. Just know that it is what it is. Handle it the best way you can and then move on. that is why when the decision was finally made, it was not just made by myself, just doing it. Actually, there were religious people involved in the decision and all of those things because I did what I needed to do. You see what I'm saying? I went to other churches to find counseling. I went to a different area, and when the decision was made, the people around me said, "You know, Chief, we understand, we know who you're dealing with, so do what you gotta do." And when I made a decision, it was finished. You know, and like Jesus Christ said, what he said, you know,
It is finished.
it is finished. So it was finished.
Oh no, my
That's what-
You did not.
Damn it! Are you really?
There was
Yeah,
no
he's
turning
finished.
back
I
to it.
want Brooks, but Brooks, I'm going to ask you a question. So my question to Brooks is, you hearing from us and you on the outside, especially the fact where me and Precious, we literally told you, like, we will walk into a room and we'll feel a certain kind of way. I'm asking you, you being from the outside, do you judge people based on ain't work?
Well, so here's the thing here. This entire panel, maybe with the exception of Emmett, whatever I say it's going to be very biased because Precious and I are extremely close. And I pretty much went through
Well,
the
the way she live her head, Jana, I think you're that close. But we'll have a different conversation.
Oh well, no, we are very, very close.
We don't think so, but it's okay.
The man frozen. Don't worry.
Oh, you're frozen. Okay.
Okay, he's frozen. I thought he was really just trying to not say anything.
So we're gonna wait to see if he get back. But in the meantime,
so can I ask him? Oh, he's back. Okay.
Yeah, he's back. He's back.
Yeah.
Okay, Brooks, you are frozen. So Red didn't get what you said.
No, I was saying that as far as judging people, I don't do that because, you know, Shakespeare said to thy own self be true. And one thing about me, I try to be very true to myself. And I know that because had it not been for certain people in my life that I could talk to and talk about my relationship, and for had it not been for the grace of God, and also for my own decision that there were certain things I just wasn't going to do, I would be divorced too, because marriage is very challenging. If you think about my own relationship, my wife and I have every reason why people say a marriage would not work. We are very different personality-wise, as you can attest, EJ. Complete opposites. She doesn't talk too much, and I'm the one who's very outgoing. You know, we have different personalities, but I think one of the things that made it work for me when we got married, I put the responsibility on myself, and I made an open statement to everybody who was close to me, and I told them, I said, if you ever hear that I got divorced, the fault is mine. It's not hers. And I think, yeah, that's what I said. I told my closest friends, I said, if I ever get divorced, it's my fault. Don't blame Lynn. So every time there's an issue, the Bible says you are slain by the words of thy own mouth. My words come back to me.
You don't set yourself up.
You say it's your fault if something happens. So I work hard to make it work. It hasn't been perfect. There's been some serious challenges, but my words always come back to me. So that's why I don't judge anybody, because I know it's not that easy, man.
So EJ, if I may say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
And Brooks, this is not for pertaining to you per se, but based to EJ's question, I think some people unknowingly judge. Because I don't know about everybody on a panel, but there were some friends, you know, maybe the married ones, that kind of sort of just pulled away because now you were the single friend, right? Or maybe you weren't invited. I know for me, I stopped getting invitations to things. I mean, I don't think it was coincidental, and it baffled my mind as to why. And people are entitled to feel the way they do.
Yeah.
So maybe some people intentionally judge, maybe some don't realize that they're doing it. Maybe, you know, I had one friend who eventually went through their own issue, but I remember not being invited to their events when I was going through my stuff, and later on found out that they weren't doing it intentional. They felt maybe I wouldn't be comfortable attending because, you know, I wasn't coming with so and so, or you know what I mean, with my ex, or I would have been uncomfortable. So they, in their minds, made that decision for me, right? But I didn't find out till like after the fact. So I think some people have their own reasons. It may be that they're being judgmental. It may be that they just feel you're not going to be comfortable in the situation. You know, and then some people are just, you know, they just don't give a crap.
And I think, yeah, go ahead, Camila. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I think when it comes to people being knowingly or unknowingly judgmental, I think it's more so is unknowingly, just because sometimes most people, most couple, when they get married, they are in the same friends group.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes they feel the need that they have to take sides. And sometimes based on what we or the couple give them, they feel like they have to take sides. And it splits. So some friends may go this way, or even family members. And some family members will go one side, another family member go one side. But in the midst of it all, when you're going through that with friends, you have to not let friends get in the midst of your head.
Yeah.
And you have to not allow what this friend say versus what that friend say. You have to know that this is, you went in front of God and give that said your vows. You didn't, I mean, friends was there, but also the promise was made more so to your spouse and God. God first and then your spouse. So make sure you are right in your heart with who you made the what's the word? The promise or those vows to before you look at friends.
Yeah.
I just want to add that in there.
And I think that is super important. I really like that you said that, because I think what happens is, I know what I have seen and what I have noticed is, like you said, you're in the circle with friends. And so people not only start, their friends, let's just be honest, they won't invite you to everything. If they're having things where they want to, because you used to do things as a couple. And now you're in a couple. Another thing I realized after the process was, there are friends for both of you guys. So now they get, okay, should we invite him or should we invite her? But if we invite him, if she hears it, she's going to get upset. If we invite her, he's going to get upset. So there are tune in between this stuff. But what I like is, I had a couple of friends in handful who was like, look, your problem is your problem. Your problem is not my problem. So this is what's going to happen. If I'm having something and I'm inviting you, I'm going to invite your ex. If you want to come, you come. If you don't want to come, you don't have to come. But this is what's going to happen. Right. And so, of course, you know, I'm like, oh, but you're supposed to be on my side. You know, we're supposed to be a tag team. We work together as the general and the follow me. At the end of the day, it worked. Because guess what happened now? They put that responsibility to me. You're going to come or you're not going to come. And so I think for me, that helped me. And what Pressure talk about, yeah, there are friends who are just grimy. They're just mean. They didn't want to hang out with you. They didn't want to talk to you no more because, you know, I felt that some people felt that, you know, your bad luck will rub on them. So they want to it's like, it's not, I think people do that. And then it's like weird because after some time, then they won't reach out. And now I'm confused. I'm like, okay, so what we're about to talk about now? But anyway, that's my conversation.
Right. You want to talk about their problems?
Yeah, now I don't want to talk about their problem. I'm just like, sorry, I ain't got nothing to say.
No, but in all honesty, though, Carmina, you said something that makes, you know, that really resonated with me, in that, you know, at the end of the day, you have to be at peace with yourself, and you have to be at peace with your relationship with Christ, because ultimately that is the relationship that's going to keep you, keep you
Right.
sane, keep
Mhm.
some sort of joy in your heart, keep you hopeful, because
Mhm.
the divorce is hard.
Mm.
It's even if Emmett says, it is what it is.
It's
I'm
been
sure I'm sure there were things that were hard for him that he may not, he's fixing his face on the screen, that he may not say. But I refuse to believe that somebody just goes through divorce without any type of difficulty or any type of issue.
right.
But I'll give you a minute, Emma, to respond. But that
Everybody will buy
relationship, that relationship with Christ, man, that was the rock. That was the solid foundation that I needed.
Right.
Because looking back now, would I change anything about what I went through? No. No matter how hard, I don't wish divorce on anybody. No
nobody.
matter how hard that was for me, with two small children, full-time career, losing my mind, that relationship that I built with Christ during that
Mhm.
time, to be
Right.
completely relying upon Him,
Right.
whether your pastor call you or don't call you, whether your
Right.
friend call you or don't call you, whether your siblings call you or don't call you, I had to rely on Christ.
Yeah.
And that was the only saving grace I had in my life.
Emmett.
Have you rest? Okay.
Oh,
So let me
gavel
say
up.
this. Let me say this. My position was already answered with the, or explained, I should say, with the statement that you recognize that Camina made, and that is things between you and Christ. At the end of the day, like I said before, it was not a decision that was made just me in isolation and all that. I made efforts, from a Christian standpoint. I tried to make sure that this thing worked and so forth. But
Mhm.
yes, my I was at peace in myself because of Christ. And yes, one thing I would say, let me give you a little bit of, whatever it is. When the process started and I was sitting in court and the attorney that I had, you know, went in the master's chamber and came back and gave me a number that was ridiculous. My first reaction was like, what? Like, this is, I just like, what? But then in a split second, I said, you know what? It's okay. And this attorney, I could see, I could see her brains moving like, whoa, why this dude say it's okay like that? Is he going to kill this person or do something, like the way you just go from who and you cut down like that, like what happening? So she said, you sure? I said, I'm fine. It's okay. And she said, you sure? I said, I'm good. It's fine. Because yes, why I said that. When
Mm.
my first reaction was myself. The okay reaction was God telling me, my man, I got you.
Relax.
Mhm.
Relax. This will be taken care of. And I tell you this, going through the entire divorce, even my wife here, she from that whole process, you know, said to me, like, dude, how did you do this? Right? In the sense that she was like, because every time I had to spend more money, because that's
Mm.
what it was, like spending more money, moving, paying lawyers, over $10,000, $20,000. I spent almost upwards of $100,000
Oh
in the whole
Lord
thing
Jesus.
because what?
Jesus.
I was
Oh
trying
Lord
to,
Jesus.
exactly, because I was trying to be in my children's
Jesus.
life, right?
Mm.
But every time new financial liability came up, God made a way for influx of money to come to the point that I was telling people, I beg you, I don't want no more time. Okay, I can't do it because if I take all the time you're giving me, I will not serve nobody right.
Mm.
God made a way every single time when situation came up. So that's how I knew that, man, you did what you had to do. You went through your process. Like the saying go, you can take the horse to the water, but you can't force it to drink. You took the point in counseling, you can't force them to listen, and all of those things. So when you made a decision, when I made my decision, I was fine. That's why it
Mm.
wasn't soon after I got remarried. Because people are you sure? I said, I'm done.
You
That thing, like I
yeah.
said, is
I don't
finished.
know.
It was
I ain't
finished.
right down. No, I ain't.
No, you know what though? Let me tell you something.
Emmett,
So
go ahead,
let me
Camina.
tell you why I understand Emmett, because with Maryland law, it gives you, and for me, it gives you you have to be separated for
Oh
about a
yeah.
year. So in that separation for me, I don't have any children. So I of course do disappear anyway. So I didn't see him until court. When Emmett brought up court,
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
haven't dealt
something happened to me too when
I
he
had
said,
something
I like,
happen to me because at court was the first time that I since my ex-husband left the hospital and said I'm gonna get clothes and never came back. Court was the first time I saw him, and so when I got in court, I I'm telling you, I had this. I froze.
Hmm.
I just how you hear me talking, like that. I couldn't. I didn't know what to say. So what helped me was I wrote a long letter to what I was going to say so I can get my mind together so I'm not scattered. And that I had the judge, who was an old lady, read that, took her time and read that in her courtroom. But court, you saying court just triggered me just now because I'm like, man, I remember that feeling when I got in court. You thought I don't know, I was frozen. And I had like this out of body experience that it was me and my dad. My dad was like, I mean, like he kept hitting me.
Hmm.
Then I came back to myself. I was like, so I'm in court? So my mind went, the last time I saw you was in the hospital. Then now I'm seeing you in court. Like court just triggered me just now. So I just wanted to say that. You see, and like Precious said earlier, talking about this, you think you're fine sometimes, and then one thing can trigger you. One thing, because it's been over. I mean, I've been past this. It's been a while. I've gone through therapy for myself. I mean, let me tell you, therapy is one of the best things, even if you have nothing going
yep,
on. Okay, let's leave that alone.
yeah,
But
he did.
when they said the therapist needed a therapist, that was me.
Yep.
So, but I thought I dealt with that court thing. It just brought up something, man. You brought up something just now, just like, oh,
Brooks, but
No
Brooks,
man.
you hearing our story. Obviously you haven't been through that process, and you know all of us through our process, and you saw
oh
us
yeah, Brooke was
in our
there.
process. You know our
For all
process. So we
of
want to
us.
ask you.
I remember when the Negro went for his clothes and
So
never came
I
back.
want to ask you. I want to ask you.
Yeah.
I really want to hear from you. When you hearing us now talking, we're literally reliving our trauma. That's what's happening right
Mm.
now. What do you think?
Well, it's actually I can't even begin to imagine how you feel because just hearing the stories and seeing some of the things play out was traumatic for me too. Because
Yeah.
when people go into to divorce, you think it's just you that's being affected, but people who have been close to you or people who've known you, they might not verbalize it, but there's a certain level of trauma, there's a certain level of sadness, especially when you're dealing with people that you truly love. There's a certain level of sadness. And then when you've been around such things, maybe one of the reasons why when you do get married, yours might work not because of, but in spite of, because you know how you felt. You felt other people's pain, and it wasn't
Mhm.
even your own pain; it was vicarious. So you know what? I don't want to feel this kind of pain because it's too painful. It's traumatic. So other people's experiences can actually help you in your own situation.
Wow.
Because I remember one time I caught myself getting mad at my wife. Oh, she did this and did that, and I told her, you know what? That's it. You leave or I leave. That was in 2017, and
Mhm.
she called my bluff. She left for one night.
You started go ahead.
she left him. I thought she called. You know, your sister is very quiet, EJ. But she called my bluff that night. She left, and I was calling all around. She came home the next day. She didn't say a word. Came home, checked on the kids, and started leaving again. I said, "Where you going?" "Oh, you told me to leave, right? Either you leave or I leave. But so I'm leaving, but you're gonna stay with the kids." I said, "No."
You start crying.
Look, baby, let's talk this thing over. I was just mad. I should stay with the kids. No, if we ever get divorced, you can keep the kids. I said, oh no. Come back, let's talk this thing over. Let's go grab a chicken and grab a little glass of French wine and sit down and talk, you know. But I was like, no. Jack drunk, but he ain't fool, you know. I was like, no. So it's dramatic when you've experienced what your friends that you were close to went through, and if you have any bit of sense, you'd be like, you know what, I don't think I want to go through this because it's too painful.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's why we just came off the topic of friends and family? Do you think that's why friends and family, this is to everybody, that's why they separate themselves? And you say, this person left your life, this person wasn't there for you, because do you think that they also are feeling your pain, that they're not there? Do you think so? Could it be that way?
So I personally think, for me, I don't have a lot of friends to begin with. My circle is very small.
Okay.
But I feel that someone who's genuinely a friend, because we have friends, we have associates, right?
Right.
Someone who's genuinely a friend, even if they are sad for you, you're the one who's going through it, right? So if you are genuinely a friend, then you show up and you support, despite your feeling of sadness, because that person is the person who's actually experiencing the ordeal.
Got it. Yeah.
At least in my opinion of a true friend. And then of course then there are associates who are just uncomfortable. And if you're uncomfortable, then yes, do what's best for you. If you want to stay away, stay away. If you want to come around, come around. But ultimately, people who are truly in your inner circle, who are truly there for your best interest, you should be there to support somebody who's in their time of need, regardless of what it is, whether it's divorce or it's illness. The same way you celebrate with them in the happy times, be there for them in the bad times. At least that's
true. But I also want to let them know when you say support, because there are friends who they think they're supporting, but when they come, every time they want to talk, you all need to have this conversation about what's going on in your life. And then they want to talk about the person that you're going through this traumatic event with. And so those are the friends where I literally cut them off and I block them. That
goes back to my point where sometimes people are there for you and they think that they're supporting you, but they're not supporting you in the manner in which you need them to. So in all fairness, EJ, that's when you're supposed to step in and say, hey, listen, I know you're here to support me, but the way in which you're doing it is not working versus just cutting the person off and blocking them.
Off quick.
But, give them the opportunity first. Tell them, say, look, this is how I need you to help me.
Mentally, I was not prepared because I was about to fight somebody. Like, why are you giving me all this extra information? Well, I saw the person was doing this, and like, why are you telling me this? Why do I need to know? So
that kind of friend, you gotta get rid of them.
That's what I did. I cut them off.
There are toxic close friends.
Yeah.
And you don't see those people until you have a situation, you're going through a situation. That's when you see those people, and there are toxic family members. So you don't know sometimes that they are toxic until you are going through a situation. And when you're going through a situation now, that's when you see different characters of people.
It's true.
So
So Precious, somebody who's watching said some of us left, we came back, we filed for limited divorce, we then reconciled, but Precious was my ride or die.
Oh really?
Yes, somebody who's
watching. Nice.
They say you were the ride or die, and that is a berry.
Ah,
But you know something though, that's it's good that Barry said that, because sometimes we well, I'm gonna go a little bit spiritual and a little, yeah, a little spiritual.
Go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
Just a tad bit. Sometimes in our path, God allow us to go through something to help somebody, to be able to help somebody. So in the process, what I've learned, that when I was going through this stuff, God allowed me to go through it in a way that where I use therapy, I use, of course, my relationship with Christ, but it allowed me to see purpose in that process, to be able to, now I can sit and I have counsel professionally and just friendship people. Through friendship, I've counseled people, and I don't know what sometimes the ending was bad and sometimes it was good, but if I hadn't gone through what I went through, that inner knowledge that I have been there for people to trust me, and also me trusting myself through Christ, it would have been hard. So sometimes we go through these process or these circumstances or situations to be able to help somebody. So it's not all bad.
yeah. God definitely uses our bad and turns it for good, so that we are
Brilliant.
in a position to help somebody else. Because there's somebody out there right now who's probably going through a divorce or just went through a divorce. And, they may feel excited or they may feel traumatized. But for the ones that feel traumatized, like, I have no idea how I'm going to wake up tomorrow, that person needs to know that there is light at the end of a tunnel, that there is you will wake up tomorrow, and that you are able to thrive tomorrow, and that there's so much good that is still out there for you. A lot of times, and I'm going to get churchy, there are a lot of times that some people look down to divorcees, and because because you got a divorce, XYZ or whatever their mental thoughts are. But God still loves me. He's still taking care of me. Listen, I am more kept right now than I was married. God, I mean, and I'm not trying to throw shade. I just mean, like, God still loves me. He still wakes me up. He still provides for me. I'm still excelling. My kids are thriving. And I just that's all because of Christ, right? So, there's hope, man. There's life after divorce. I'm not promoting it, but I'm just saying, if you find yourself in that situation, you have to understand God did not design you to be a doormat, that He loves you as His child.
I'll say that one of the things, like you guys talk about in terms of lessons learned, it's funny how I've had a lot of friends call me for advice on the process of going through stuff. Now, my thing is, I tell people, I say, look, if you guys can work things out, you guys can make it work, by all means, do it. Yeah. I say, you don't want to go down the process here to do this, right? I say, however, if it cannot work, I will advise you on how to make it amicable to where y'all don't spend the kind of money I spend. I would advise you, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but trust me, when I tell you, you go to court, you'll be fine. And all of those things. So I've given I got folks calling me like, oh, Emmett, what should I do about my custody thing? I say, well, man, do this, but make sure you cool to the mom and I give advice. I try to balance my advice to them. But yeah, I get a lot of calls from people, friends and stuff wanting, pointers.
And I'm one of the people that called him too. So I just put my hand up. I'm about to kill somebody. Help me out right now. Before I kill somebody.
And I tell myself, man, relax, calm down.
Relax. Funny. Everybody used to tell me that. Relax.
I say, relax.
You say you're always on 10.
Because you know me, I'm always on 10. Like I am
always on 10.
And it's weird because at that time it was like I literally got in this new job. Yeah. And everything was just like coming at once. I'm like, I'm about to Lord, you said when you talk about court, I remember going to court, and of course I like to do things by myself. I didn't tell nobody I'm talking. I walked in there by myself, and when I saw lawyers and I saw people and everything, I had to go to the church. I said, I need to go to the bathroom, please. My stomach literally broke loose.
That court, man.
Literally, I'm talking and I'm laughing right now, but my stomach broke loose. I had diarrhea. I was sweating. It was like I was, whole episode.
That court would get you. I swear,
like,
that
Jesus
court.
It's real.
That court is
And
real.
one thing I say, that's why when I first started, I said I'm a little different from everybody. Because when I was going through I told my attorney straight up, I said, listen, I want to know everything you're doing, so that in the event that something happens to you, I can represent myself in court. So I went through all the case laws. I do all the different things. I know all the different weak my role and all that other stuff. And that's why people call me on it. But so I was, because, at the end of the day, it's one of those things that you just, you go through it depending on your personality. I mean, I don't know. It's just me. I already like law anyway. So I just use the opportunity to, boost things up.
So then I have a question. So for the ones that have remarried, people who's listening and met on the line, do you think then, and you can answer it in a general way, do you think that was not, that person that you divorced was not for you, was not in your help you, allowing you with purpose and destiny, and you just sometimes we get married for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And then because we think we're in love, and no one should get married, and I'm going to go off a little bit, but I'm going to come back to that question, and someone please answer. No one should ever get married because of love. That fades away. After love fades away, then what happens? After the sex is no longer good, it's not hitting the spot, what happens? So you should never get married because I love him. That is not an answer. So because that love will fade away. So come back to Emmett's question. The question I was asking Emmett was, do you think, because I mean, of course, I want to get remarried, and I really, in my heart, feel like when you look back, that was not in destiny for me. I pushed it when I was looking at love and I was looking at other things. Do you think, or anyone can answer, you may have married the wrong person? So
here's the deal. One of the things my attorney used to tell me, he said, "My man, you're man now, because now a lot of people have gone through this stuff and come out the way you come out." And I said, I'm like, "What are you talking about, man? It's whatever." But yeah, it's a situation. With that, I would say, it's not. Yes, that person was not the right person for you. I have another business mentor that told me. He said he made an example of when his first marriage. He was in business, started a business stuff, and never went anywhere because the wife was not really working with him on that. But then the next one, it just kind of took off. So in those little things like that, you find that, okay, I got with the right person, I didn't get with the right person. But moreover, it's also you also have to look at when you go through a divorce, if you are going to get back into marriage, I strongly advise you to sit down, be true to yourself, figure out the lessons that you've learned from the previous stuff. Where did you go wrong? And then make sure that you don't make that mistake in another marriage. When I was marrying my first marriage, I opened my IT business. Could not work full-time by myself, in the business. I always had to hold down something because even though I had a vision, I made it clear and all of that stuff. But the person I was with was not on par with that vision. She had her own different stuff. But the moment I got remarried in 2014, 2015, I was 100% working full-time in my business. So that's just an example to say that depending on when you get with the right person and stuff like that, things kind of move in the direction you ought to move. And then, you have to look at the other things, like communication and those kinds of things. How is the communication? How are you guys able to resolve your own problems without having to, involve other people or run into somebody else or family and all of that? You're talking about friends and those kind of people. If you can keep friends and family out of your marriage, you'll be all right.
And I want to attack what Kamina said, because for me, Kamina, I don't believe that there's one person for one person. I believe that people meet people and it creates this thing, whether it's love, whatever it is that they create. So I personally believe, I don't think that my ex, our relationship wasn't meant to be. I think it was part of my process. Because why I say part of my process, because out of that, I've gained the best thing ever in my life. I have a child, I have my son, I have my mini me. So I believe that that was part of my plan. I don't believe there's one person for anybody. I think people meet people, they create a relationship, or cultivate a relationship, whatever it is, and then move on from there. Love for me has never been a feeling. Love for me has been a decision. Because I decide to be with this person. Because for the feelings that you said, Santiago, I don't want to look at your face. I don't want to see you. Well, how can I be in love for you at that point of time? So that's my thing. But Brooks, looked like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, the question Kamina asked is, wow, that's a deep question. Okay, and I can personally.
You're still married, so.
But I can personally attest to that question, because before I got married, I was dating a young lady, and well, you can call it love. I was so crazy about her and blah blah blah.
Pressure life, you know that guy. He broke that guy's heart.
What girl? I thank you.
Let me drink. We are drinking. We are drinking.
Who my red cup at?
We're all drinking to that.
We are drinking.
Hold my red cup.
Let's drink.
So, I mean, I was crazy about her, but I had sometimes we really have to look back in our lives at our forefathers and learn from their mistakes.
You gotta go that far.
Oh yeah, because I saw my father, my grandfather call themselves being in love and all that stuff, and hey, I saw how that ended. And when I saw myself going down the same road, I'm like, no, I don't want to go down this road too. So I sat down and I had a very strong talk with myself. I said, Self
said yes.
Self said, I'm listening. I said, you sure you want to do this? Because this girl right here, if you get married to her, your life is over. Because there were certain things I asked myself, certain boxes I checked, and she didn't meet any of them. The only thing that we had going on was the fact that I was so emotionally attracted to her.
And it's big. Did he buy you a cook?
Yeah. Oh, we're doing bad thing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So when she came to me and said she wanted to talk, she wanted to have a talk with me. This thing wasn't working, and she wanted to call it quits. I was like, praise the Lord, in my heart. I was like, okay. And she was like, you're not going to say anything? I said, what else you want me to say? And I was glad. It was a long road home, but it was hurting, but I knew I made the right decision. And the decision became even easier because right within that transition, I met my wife. I was way back in 2004 towards the end. And we didn't even start off from relationship or anything. We just started off as friends. There was no relationship involved. There was no love involved. Howbeit, as we began to spend more time together and get to know each other better, I realized that, you know what, for the kind of person that I am, for who I am, and as crazy as I can be, I need a woman in my life who's going to keep me straight, who's going to check me when I'm doing the wrong thing. I don't want no woman who I can just walk over, allow me to do whatsoever, because it's going to destroy me. So I checked the box and said, this is the woman that I want to get married to. And at that time, love had nothing to do with it. Because the other prayer warrior said she couldn't even hold hands. She couldn't even hold hands. I mean, there was no kind of emotional attachment. But
What's in the land?
Yep. Yeah. It was the fact that this person is good for me. Yeah, I like her. But besides that, like Camila said, all that stuff is going to fade as you get older, you know. But the character, the integrity is what I was going to stand. And I know that this is what I needed to make me a better man. And I'm so glad that 15 years later, the proof is in the pudding. She's made me a better man. And I'm not ashamed to say because of my wife, I'm the man I am today. You know, and Emmett said it, to your own self be true. I was true to myself. This is what I need. I truly believe if I had gotten married to somebody else, I probably would be divorced today. I wouldn't even be where I am. But I had to speak the truth to myself. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of, even in churches. We are not being true to ourselves to say, this is what we need. We're only going off the facade of, I'm in love, you know. I'm in love. This person is this person is that. This person is this person and all that. We're not speaking the truth to ourselves. And I think that's the reason why sometimes we find ourselves in some of the situations we find ourselves in.
Right.
And I think with the church, being that all of us, I would say all of us are, you know, we are part of, well, one time in we're all part of the same church. Or we assembled together. And so somebody said, I think somebody has said earlier, this conversation is not being held in the church. The church hasn't created a space, even though there are people in the church who are going through divorce. The rate of divorce is higher in the church, but the church don't talk about it. So when we say, why is it that we start the relationship in the church, but then end it in court? How can we find a space? And I know that's something that's like been on my heart forever, because I'm like, I had to navigate that process by myself. I didn't have a lawyer. I was not spending that money. I navigated the process by myself. I read books, I researched, and I did it on my own, and I got everything that I wanted from that process.
And I give you case law.
Yeah, I had to read case log and rebuttal and do Jason versus Jason in Indianapolis. This happened and so this, yep. I am telling you, because the problem is, I think it's easier for people. I won't say easy. It's a smooth ride for people who don't have property. They don't have anything together. So the process is a little smooth. But when you have properties, when you have business, and then you have a child, that custody part, you have one. So before we leave from here, there are people who are watching. There might be somebody who's contemplating. Someone said it's called biblical mediation. Jesus is a good judge. And so there is somebody who have an amazing story that they share with me, where when they were about to go through divorce, they and their husband literally was going to go through divorce. They were ready to go and do this thing, but they were able to go back to the church. And the church was able to do a biblical mediation where people from the church stood by them. Somebody represented her husband, somebody represented her. Based on the rules and regulation, what she did get from the court, they presented the case. Everything worked out. Yes, it was in a church setting, and it worked. And that's because I believe it worked for them. And so through the church setting and through the process, but it still made it legal. They still did like the legal thing. So what happened in the church, they took it to the court, signed papers and all that kind of stuff. But it worked for them. And today they are not divorced. And so I was like, well, I think that's something, I don't know, from you guys before we end this is, what can you say before we leave from here for someone who might be contemplating divorce?
Did you see? I'm sorry. Did you say they're still married, or they actually?
Yeah, so they literally separated. They were about to get a divorce, but it was about to work out, and they came back together, and they're still together.
Okay.
So, EJ, if I may,
yeah,
I think that the story you just gave here, I would say is happened because I would assume, I don't know these people, but I would assume it's because these people allowed the church to do that, to be that for them. So when we talk about the church is there to do for you what you may want the church to do for you, but you have to allow the church to do it for you. And moreover, in terms of this conversation, I mean, you have this platform, you have, anyone can in a church that feel that they have the ability to and time to do it, they can start a conversation, get a group together.
I
But
like
at the end of the day, you have to anyone going through a situation, if you are 100% truthful and honest, because part of what made my situation the way it was is that I was 100% truthful and honest with myself.
Mhm.
And I even say, okay, what did I do wrong? Like, where did I go wrong in the whole scenario, right? And
Mhm.
what can I do, and how do I contribute to this whole process here? So, as like I tell people, when you're going through this, especially if you already going through the divorce thing, you're thinking, I'm like, listen, take the time and really have a conversation with yourself as to what you're looking for, what you want to do, where you're going next. Because if you don't, you're gonna find yourself in the same situation again because you just go with emotion and stuff like that. So I think, and if for your question in terms of people who going through it, my first advice, if there is any hope for you all to stay together, explore that, push into that. You know what I mean? If the person is willing to talk to you, because I tell folks, if the other person is willing to talk, talk. Don't go and jump and leave, because you can start talking, that can lead to other things, and then poop, you can fix it.
That's
But if
everything.
you're just if it's just chakla like that and nothing happening, then start positioning yourself to take proper, step and guide your interests. But
So
anyway,
I want to say something. You started off, and I wanted to piggyback off of what you said. So we are the church.
I
We
like
That's
how you started
people,
off with that.
right? So
it.
we are the church. So in instances where you can be a brother's keeper, be a brother's keeper. Sometimes it just takes that vested party to bring you together to talk to you both. If both people are willing to partake, right?
Conversation. Exactly.
Yeah, but where is the church in the process? Well, the church can if we're not talking about ourselves and we're talking about like our pastors, right?
Mhm.
The only time that can work is if you go and tell them. If you don't tell them, they're not going to know. So they're not going to know to get involved, right? But if you like Emmett shared, they went to counseling at the church, so that's an example where they tried. They went to the church and they tried it there and it didn't work out. So
Mhm.
sometimes that's the case. But like for example, Kamina's case, where brother man just up and just nobody could find him to even say, oh, let's come and have a discussion. So I think it depends on the situation and it depends on the people. Sometimes the other person is not willing to go to talk to nobody. And if that is the case, what are you going to do? You're going to show up to your pastor's office all by your own self?
Mhm. We
I,
tried it
I, I
before.
think I think what we do, Precious, you said we are the church, and I do agree. And I said the church isn't the building. The
Yeah.
church are the people. We we
Mhm.
we are the church. I'm the church, you are the church. However, us as members of the church, and we do have a leader, we put too much responsibilities on the pastors. We put too much responsibilities on the leaders of the church. Yes, there are leaders,
Yep.
but what we're not doing is because we are the church, we have professionals that are
Mhm.
within the church, within the building per se, that can go at that we have so many ministries in the church. Why can't it be a ministry that says, let's stay together or something? I don't know the name, but a ministry that makes sure we keep marriages in place, because when it comes to the church, divorce is like the highest, at the highest when it comes to folks in the church. So I believe, as I have a degree in counseling, that's my profession. I counsel people. We have so many. I was, looking at different people. We have people in the church who are This is their profession.
Yeah.
Are you, let's talk about, are you willing to be in this ministry? Can we talk about a ministry? We focus on the usher, we focus on the choir, we focus on the word coming through, the prayer ministry, we focus on all these things. Why can't we focus and have a strong team together? Now, the team that we should have together shouldn't be people that leave that setting and take your business to John, Paul, and Sarah.
That's it.
So these
And
are
that is the fear.
sign contracts. Like, make it so serious that something
NDAs.
is signed and say
NDAs.
it's a volunteer ministry, because we volunteer. We're not doing it for us. We're doing it for the Lord, so that the body is strengthened, so we can do what the Lord has called us to do. So if we're doing this, let's sign contracts and say, okay, this is what we're doing. Just how I counsel people. Now I counsel veterans. I know I can't speak about one outside of outside of the office or outside of our setting. Let me not do that. So let's come up with ministries. We don't have to leave it up to the pastor to come up with it. Like, a group of us sit together and say, okay, this is what we want to do. Take it to the pastor. In my church, I have a bishop who, when he's so open-minded, that he'll be like, okay, start it. Let me see how it goes. How can I help you? No, I'm just saying, these are things that we can start doing amongst ourselves to help each other. And let's do a ministry as to, let's stay together type of ministry. We have the singles ministry.
Yeah, but there's the
I'm
singles.
reading these
Hold
comments.
on.
I'm sending in and they're killing me.
Iberi is crazy right now.
Yeah,
go ahead, EJ.
So Precious, then Ellington is going to go because my people are showing me the time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this hour is not even long for this stuff, but let's go.
I told you.
Go ahead. Sorry, sis.
I was gonna say, we have singles ministry, we have marriage ministry. There's a marriage ministry. There's a
marriage,
couples ministry. Couples
yes.
ministry. There's the men ministry that pray about marriage all the time, talk about marriage all the time. There's the women's ministry that talk about marriage all the time. We really don't have something for divorcees, which are most of the time broken people that really need you at that time.
We need you to just let me vent.
We do a really good job. And Carmina, I think your recommendation is a really good one, because it's almost like the professional side on top of the spiritual side, which I think is really good, because at the end of the day, our pastors are not certified therapists. They're not, right? So I think that's really good to
not
add
all of them.
professional on top of the spiritual. So I think that's really good. And I think we also need to focus on the people who, they were in a couples ministry, they were in a women's prayer ministry, and they still ended up divorced. So how are we ministering to those people? There are single dads, there are single moms, there are people that financially in ruins and don't know how they're going to take care of anything because of their divorces, right?
Right.
You heard Emmett talk about how expensive his was. So I think we do a lot of trying to prevent it, but we could really work on how to restore when somebody does go through that. How do we love on them more, knowing that they just went through something that was heartbreaking for them?
Okay, Ellington.
What the man says, EJ, as you know, we have a group, and we express that exact sentiment that everything goes to the pastor or the bishop or the archbishop or whoever. And it shouldn't be that way, because there are issues that people are dealing with in 2022. There's somebody who's been married since 1902 cannot relate to. And you need people, whether pastors or deacons, who are professionals, who can relate to these things and who are able to counsel you properly when you are dealing with these specific issues. And I think that has been one of the failures of the church. We're putting everything, every issue, every problem into the lap of one person, because this person is the pastor or this person is the bishop or the archbishop. And that has been a failure of the church. So we in the church need to identify people who are professionals, who are comfortable enough talking about certain things, because there are certain things some pastors are not comfortable talking about. If the woman or the man are having a problem because, you know, maybe she doesn't want to give him oral sex, some preachers don't want to talk about it. Well, people get divorced because of that. Let's just be real.
People have gotten divorced for that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Yes, people are.
yeah.
So basically, we're talking to ourselves. Basically, we're
Yeah,
telling
we're
ourselves.
talking to
We
ourselves.
all
And
need
We're
to
talking
be
to
there.
ourselves. You're right.
I
We're
think that's
talking to
what it is.
ourselves because we are the
And
church.
so now we gotta go, and y'all want to try to be talking plenty, and
Wait,
y'all
let me
not
ask my
gonna
own
let
quick. Wait,
us
EJ, miss my own
go.
now.
It should have been an
EJ,
hour
miss
and
my
a
own.
half or 2 hours
Let me
because
see my
Look
own.
at
honestly,
that.
I
Look
don't
at
have
that.
the time. But go ahead.
Okay. But
Okay,
what I was
Emma,
going
go
to say,
ahead.
are two things. The boost coming point. I went to Emmanuel's church when it was Emmanuel's church. I met with a pastor there. She was actually, not only was she a pastor, but she was licensed therapist. You know, she was licensed to do counseling, marital counseling and stuff. But to go to you see, you made me forget what Brooks was saying. But in terms of what Brooks was saying, the bottom line is that the bottom line is that what some of the problem that we have with the pastors here is that they want to, then that's why we can set this up right in the church, because you don't need no super spiritual conversation in that kind of situation there.
No.
You need people that can be real and talk real. Not know, the Bible, John 3:16 said this, and put that thing to the side. Let's talk what happened here.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's people in your marriage, just you, your partner, and God. So say what you want to say. There are some things that only getting on your knees gonna fix. Right? So I hear you, there's the practical, but don't disregard the spiritual.
I'm not disregarding, but you get guided within there.
Yeah, I think for me, Precious, the spiritual is important, but I think what the church also needs to understand is that counseling is different from mediation. You have to deal with the people's character. When I come to your office and I say, this is a situation that's going on in my marriage now. My partner is not doing A, B, C, D, and F. Don't take a scripture and say John 3:16, for God so loved the world. Don't do that right now.
A type of missionary.
Like at that moment in time. At that moment in time, trust me, I know John 3:16. But what I'm dealing with right now is we have no money to pay our bills. And let's say, for example, the person partner is spending money, they're shopping. Let's say they're a gambler. So in that moment, when you bring this whole spiritual stuff, that person cannot hear it. Because what they need for you to do is they need some sort of mediation. You need to call the partner, sit the partner down, talk the realities of life. This is what's going on with your partner. And I think that is the issue. I think they get the whole mix up of mediation, counseling, when to bring the Bible, and I'm not saying the Bible or the spiritual aspect should not be in every setting, but I think what happens is we miss when to bring it in. Because when I was going through my stuff and people want to, you want to throw a Bible verse at me, I'm looking at you like, really? So you don't think I know that verse? You don't think I know God? Or you tell me saying divorce is a sin? And God hates divorce. So in this point that you're getting a divorce, you are a sinner. Is that the right thing to tell someone that they're going through this? Yes, I guess it's tough love, but let's be real humans. In that moment, as a human being, you like, I'm gonna throw stuff at this person. And like Brooks said, and what Emmett said, for me, I went to Grace in Colombia. They have a divorce ministry. I don't know what happened to Carmina. But they have a divorce ministry, literally. And so you sit there, people, it was like a therapy session. But the person also gave you guys pointers on how to deal with it. But it has
jumping off one by one.
Yes, I think it has come to an end. And I think this conversation
first of you should drop over.
This conversation has gone to deeper heights. And I think you guys have been amazing. I don't know how I was going to do this conversation. As you can see, this is all I was able to write today because it was very stressful for me. But I say thank you guys for coming on, for honoring the invitation. I think from this group, I don't know what you guys want to do, but I think like Kamina literally have told us what we need to do. So I think this is something that we can all sit down and talk about. And we can see how we can do, because basically it has become a passion.
But let me mention one thing.
Passion.
We do it. Of course, at my church, we do have a licensed therapist, but it can't be one person.
Yeah.
No, it can't.
Our pastor, we have a pastor who is a licensed therapist.
Yeah,
so
we can't be,
but it can't be just the pastor. That was my point.
That's what I'm saying. It can't be the pastor, because if for me, I like life groups, and that's why I want to celebrate recovery. I love life group for people to come in. These are my challenges, these are my experiences, this is what I went through, this is how I was about to overcome it. And then when I need counseling and therapy, that person can do it. But I'm about to kick you guys out the broadcast because you guys have been amazing. Super thankful. I say Precious Taylor, you were amazing. Emin Akwe was amazing. Ellington Brooks, who've been there for 15 years. We take our hat to you. Calm down. I'm fighting again. Life is good.
No, man. I'm tired with this thing.
Thank you so much for being here. And I love you all. And I say bye, bye, bye. And I'll see you guys soon.
Bye, everyone.
Peace out.
Amina, I will call you Precious.
Okay.
Okay, guys. So this was the conversation, Outspoken Opinionated. Of course, I am your host, Edwin Maya. This was a great conversation. If you didn't hear, of course, we are on Spotify podcast. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Facebook, The Conversation, Outspoken Opinionated, Instagram, The Conversation with double N. We're asking you to go ahead. Like we said, if you are going through this process, if something is happening in your marriage, we're asking you to go and find somebody to talk to. If you're in a great church, find somebody in your church that you can talk to. You have a friends group, let them know what's going on so people can help you out. We are not giving you the license to go get a divorce. We are literally having a conversation for you to see what we went through. We look at the challenges that we face. We learn from it. And God has blessed us to move forward. So I say thank you for being here. It was a great time. And I see you next week, Thursday.